Hello there, welcome to the Tracey Napier Podcast. I am your host, Tracey Napier, and with me today I have Dwayne Morton. Dwayne is CEO of ShowUp2Win, a brand dedicated to building resilience, igniting purpose, and helping people overcome life's toughest setbacks. A former international basketball player and survivor of life-altering adversity, Dwayne now empowers others to show up fully, mentally, emotionally, and intentionally to win in every arena of life. Welcome, Dwayne.
Thank you. So I like to just say thank you to the listeners. It's just they give me I like to open up with just so much gratitude to them because time is so valuable, and whenever they give their time to listen to to me, I always want to just say thank you. And then also, Tracy, I want to say thank you for allowing me to come on your platform and share my story. And so
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to getting to know you, but also sharing my story on your platform.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad to hear. Speaking of your story, I would love to start out by sharing your story because, we met networking a few months ago and you just briefly, networking is like a 30-second, pitch, right? So I know almost nothing about you. But what you said captivated me. And so would you mind sharing your story and what got you to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I feel like most people want to know about the basketball part at first, but I think that's really where I learned resilience is through basketball. So as a 4-year-old boy, I would go outside and I would shoot on a 10-foot go where, I couldn't change the height at that time. They didn't have those type of portable basketball goes and that type of stuff. Kind of showing my age, but anyway, so the colors of the net were red, white, and blue. And so at that time, I wasn't able to hit the rim or put the ball in the basket, but I would pick out the different colors and I would say, okay, I'm going to try red today, and then and go through, and then eventually I went to the rim, and then the ball went in the hole, and I got better and better and better. But I was never a star basketball player. I was always good, and then I was not good enough the next year. So like whenever I was playing with kids my own age, I was like okay, but then it just kept seesawing. The basketball taught me so much about resilience, but also it gave me an opportunity when I went and played internationally. It actually gave me my foundation of gratitude. And so I met a 5-year old boy who hadn't eaten in 3 days. And for me, that changed my whole entire life because that made me realize that our nightmares are other people's dreams. And so I've taken that part in every challenge that I've gotten that foundation to kind of bounce off of. And so in 2006, I was diagnosed with a rare blood cancer, originally given 5 years. Eventually that got moved to about 15. But, I decided, hey, I didn't want to have a wife. I didn't want to have kids. I didn't want to have any of that because I wanted to carry my own burden. I didn't want to have anyone else carry mine. Then in 2022, as I was battling that, if that wasn't bad enough, I was involved in a police shooting as a bystander. I was driving by when a police shootout happened. A criminal took a hidden gun out, shot a police officer, and a stray bullet in that shootout hit the truck that I was driving. And so it'd be one thing if it was just me driving, but I had a passenger. I had my 3-year-old niece at the time. So anyone can just understand when you're in that type of situation, you're the protector. And so that day, a stray bullet hit that truck, and if that bullet would have been an eighth of an inch to the left, it kills me. If that bullet would have been an eighth of an inch to the right, it hits my 3-year-old niece in the back seat. And so I was dealing with PTSD and survivor's guilt. And then last year on March 8th, I found out I was misdiagnosed. Cruel joke, but what I decided to do was, Tracy, I decided I was going to change how I respond. I didn't want to take a victim mindset. And I'll be honest, it took a while to get out of that victim mindset. But once I did, I was able to really own it. And then that's how I came up with Show Up to Win.
Wow, that is incredible. So they misdiagnosed you in, was it 2006?
Yes,
with
yes.
a
So I was
rare,
29 years old.
oh my
Yes.
gosh, with a rare blood cancer, and you ended up with what was your diagnosis?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. So I only had severe sleep apnea. So something that would take maybe 2 weeks. I felt better 2 days after I had the CPAP. But just to kind of give you an idea, it was something that was very fixable. So I'm a very healthy individual right now. I just have to sleep with a mask on. But other than that, like I am so grateful and so thankful that this doctor the seen the parallels of my rare blood cancer and then that. And so when I first was diagnosed with that, Tracy, it was very rare. Now it's a lot more common, so those things kind of they match up, but it was my seventh doctor who released me. So there was six other doctors that were, either I got put in a box and they didn't let me out, or they just, they missed it.
I mean, I'm not a doctor. I have no idea how you diagnose cancer versus sleep apnea. There must be some kind of similar symptoms, I assume. But what was your mindset? So what was that, 18 years or how many years? I mean, it was a chunk of your life, right? That you thought you had cancer. And so did you have to go
Yeah.
through chemo?
So
Did you
no, no,
ever?
no. So that was the beautiful part of this. If I would have went through chemo, it probably would have killed me, right? So that's another part of this story where it's just miracle after miracle after miracle. Um, I feel I'm very divinely protected because there was so many times in that story where if the doctor would have went a different route, I would have been in a different situation, and probably wouldn't be here. But yeah, the things are so parallel. And the other thing I want to say, Tracy, is I believe in grace, so I have to give grace, and I don't have to. I want to give grace
Yeah.
because I feel like it's very important. If I was in that situation of the doctor or the police officer, I would want the same thing that I'm giving them, and that's I don't speak. I don't think of anything ill will of them or anything like that. I think that they did. I don't think they maliciously did either. So that was the other part.
You know what? You just said something that really struck me. You said it was miracle after miracle after miracle. And to even think like that after, being incorrectly diagnosed with something for so long that was, that could take your life, you're looking at it as there were miracles in this. Did you think that way while you were going through it? I mean, you didn't know obviously at the time,
That
so probably not, but like what was your mindset as you went through that?
So that's a beautiful question. And honestly, Tracy, I don't think I've been asked that before. So I would say I've always had a strong mindset, but sometimes I was very realistic. So if I'm in a pile of crap, I'm going to say, hey, I'm in a pile of crap. I'm not going to say, hey, like, I can get out of it. Like, no, I would always take that in. Where now I realize with manifestation and those type of things, like that's not the way you want. You want to talk about the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I've always had that strong mindset. I've also been very disciplined, and so I think that was the things that I was able to hold on to. Um, Probably one of the biggest things I feel like that I did, and I'll give this to the listeners. You can go to ShowUp2Win with the number two, and you can join my wait list. But I have this uh, PDF. It's called Dwayne's Daily Plan of Attack, and this will explain it. But I lived by these principles every day, even after the diagnosis. My first thing I do every day is I practice gratitude. So gratitude and just being grateful. So the first thing I do is that and just thank God for having that day because guess what? Other people didn't have that. And
Right.
so that separates you that part. So that's the one step. The second step is going to be self care. So every day I would do something for myself. And maybe at that time, um, I wasn't bedridden or anything like that, but I would just be like, I would be so tired. So I felt like how everyday people would feel like if when they had the flu. So that's that part. And so if you do things with self care, that's the number two step. And
Mhm.
then I believe here's the number three step I did was move. movement is so important, but I would do it consistently. And movement's one of those type of things. Like when you are focused on the past, you're completely in depression most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. If I'm thinking in the future, I'm anxious. And so I try to take a runner's mentality approach, and it's just left, right, left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. I take that military approach with my running whenever I ran. So I'd apply these different principles to these type of things. And then so the fourth step is just going to be adaptable. I need to be adaptable to each situation. I need to be able to know what the obstacles were coming ahead, but I also knew that I could swerve and miss them and maybe not take the center hit of the puddle. And there was a lot of times, Tracey, my mindset was so in that victim mindset that I would just take center puddles and think, oh, I'm not moving the correct way. And so I think that's the other part. So I would apply those every day through the situation of the diagnosis, through the shooting, but also I applied just different principles, and I feel like that was what kind of helped me get through that. So I've always had a strong mindset, but I also I had some principles already built in.
So I mean, I know you're human. Did you ever have days where you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't know. And when you had those days, or if you did, how did you shift out of that?
Yeah, so that's another great question. So just to let everyone know, I never was suicidal. I wasn't like that. So I think because I went overseas first, I feel like that wasn't even it wasn't even an option for me because I was like, I accomplished my dream. Like, when you introduced me, it's a former international basketball player first. Before all the mindset, for all the resilient stuff, this was my dream as a 4-year-old kid, like to play basketball past high school. And so I feel like I felt this is kind of the trade-off. I thought I was going to live a short life, but I accomplished my dream. The other part is when I went to the oncologist, I would show up with, I might have the most terrible day, but I would show up and I would be kind. I would open the doors. I was talking to the nurses. I was talking to I was making sure that they got to see Dwayne's personality at level 10.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did not want to lose that part of me when I was at the doctor's office. So I felt like that might have been purposeful for me, is like, hey, I know I don't feel well, but if I can show people how you should approach life, you should do things. And maybe I did have an older lady ask me, she goes, you're in this oncology. I've seen you over and over and over, and you've always been, I don't see you crying. I don't see you like being really mad. And I was like, look, I can't change these circumstances. I can only change the way I react to them. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the most important part of that, was I was aware of that, but I never was suicidal. I've had so many people, Tracey, tell me if I had to go through that, I would have killed myself, but I never had that.
Oh, that's really good. Um, so, and I don't know if you want to get into this, and it's totally fine if you don't, but I know I'm curious, I'm sure listeners might be curious. Are you able to touch on, like, what what was the overlap in the symptom? Like, how did that get misdiagnosed? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, so I mean the symptoms are similar. So what would happen is my blood cells were really large. My red blood cells were very large, and so they thought, and at this time this was a very rare blood issue. So that was another thing. Now it's way more common, so they know more about it. The symptoms are similar, which I would felt very fatigued. So I'm sure you've had the flu like everyone else in the audience, the listeners have. You do not feel good. I felt like that every day. So I would wake up feeling like I had the flu, and I like to use like a gas tank. I had like a quarter of a tank of a gas tank when I was going through it. And so I would wake up every day and I'm like, okay, I had to even, I really hate to say this, but like I have to tell it like it is and be transparent. But there's days that like I was a a day taking a shower type person.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to even skipping a couple of days. Like it just was like I do not have the energy. I do not feel good. There
Right.
was things I skipped, but I also felt like I just needed to move. It goes back to that step 2 that I was talking about is if I move, then I'm at least I win the day. I was consistent. And so I pat myself on the back and be like, celebrate that part. Even if it's just going to the fridge and getting a glass of OJ.
Oh, I love that. Celebrating the small wins. So, wow. So, how did you get into coaching? Where did that come in?
Coaching. Okay. It's funny. It's ironic. I never wanted to coach like basketball. I always wanted to be the skill trainer or something like that. I actually won a we had a basketball tournament that I coached when I played overseas. We won it. And I told the guys, hey, if you win this title right now, this championship, I'm never going to coach a basketball team again. And I never have. I've never coached a basketball team. What I feel where I was led into coaching is I got into sports psychology. I also used visualization to get me to where I got into a more confident. That got me overseas, I believe. And so I knew the power of mindset from an early age in sports because of sports psychology. So I just kind of applied that stuff. But I've always been more, honestly, I don't even know if I like the word coach anymore. Like I feel like coach is kind of like almost like a dirty word because there's a
It
lot of people who don't, there's a lot of coaches out there that don't really show up and do those type of things very well. I like to be more of a, I'm a teacher. I like to take what you give and see how I can help mold and make it a little bit better. So I think that's a better term for me.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay. So how did you get into like teaching about mindset?
Yeah. So I, one of the things is I knew that I can explain things. That's another thing. I knew that was one of my superpowers was I'm a good teacher. I can explain things and I can break it down and I can give people a different perspective than what most people can. And so I've been coaching probably since I was 20, 22 years old, probably with different athletes. Like I've helped other high school athletes go into college. I've helped some college athletes that went on into the pros. But what I really did was like business part. So just to give you an idea, Tracy, is, and I'm sure you're not aware of this, but I'm in Jim Rohn's mentor tree. Jim Rohn mentored my mentor, Melvin Turner Sr., and Melvin Turner Sr. mentored Jim Rohn in public speaking. So that should kind of give you an idea of like where I was able to get some different teachings from some different levels, but
Mm-hmm.
also be able to create my own program and created because it was what I was looking for when I was going through the diagnosis part, even with the misdiagnosis, the shooting for sure. I couldn't find that program. So that's why I'm building it right now. And so other thing is show up to win is not about winning games and championships. It's about winning, being. I believe winning is more than just showing up in attendance. I believe it's showing up with intention and showing up in presence.
Yeah, that is so important. I kind of want to go back a little bit to the movement part because I know I know movement is really important. I don't know if you remember this, but I am intuitive and psychic, and I decided to move to dance specifically and do certain yoga poses. Um, how how has movement really helped you, and what how does it help you, and what kind of movement do you do?
So I go outside and I shoot basketball every day.
Uh-huh.
So,
Makes sense.
I mean, and that's been for a long time. And when I was sick, I didn't do that all the time. I just did it whenever I felt like, hey, when I found out I was misdiagnosed, I started shooting basketball. And I started just shooting like one or two a day. And I was like, okay, well, I shot. And then, I got up to like 750 shots at some point. And then I realized my shoulder didn't like that. So I had to move it back down to like 300. But so movement is extremely, extremely important. It's also you're emotional. We're emotional people. So that's energy and motion. So all I'm doing is I'm taking those principles and applying it into my life. It's just, hey, so I walk every day. I walk a couple of miles a day every day, whether rain, snow, sleet. I mean, if you look on my Facebook, I shot basketball and for a friend of mine when it was like, I think there was like 9 inches on the ground. So those things were so important to me, right? But also for 18 and a half years, that was taken away from me. So that was another thing. I wanted to choose how I responded, and how I responded was I want everything back and then some.
Wow. So how do you become disciplined in doing the movement and doing the gratitude and doing, everything you outline in your steps? How does
That's
this?
a that's a great question. So most athletes were actually pretty disciplined because of we have to get better. So a lot of this stuff I didn't realize that other people weren't good at it. But I found out, especially last year when I was helping some people, they just didn't have it. And I was like, okay, so here's the thing. I want you to just wake up and tell me like the things that you do from when you wake up. If you want these results, let's do something to get those results every day and build on that. So whether it's picking up and reading a page of one book, if you pick up and read a book, just one page, and you do that 7 times, like over a week, that's 7 pages, 365 pages. That's a book that's most books. So that's the other part. And then you just kind of fall into it and you kind of add more steps. And I think that's the more important part is build that consistency to where you want to build that next step. And then when you build that consistency, build onto that next step and on and on and on. And then you have that true plan, but also you're teaching yourself something.
Yeah, discipline is so important. I know I do not consider myself an athlete in any way, shape, or form, but I did sign up to compete in a bodybuilding and bikini competition. I didn't end up competing, but during the training, I was so disciplined and I was consistent, and I was actually really proud of myself because I hadn't seen that in me before. So I feel like maybe you speak to the mindset piece of that when you go from not being disciplined to becoming more disciplined, how that shifts your mind.
It shifts your mind because here's the thing. So I'm gonna show my age right here, but like in cartoons back in the day, there was always like an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the next shoulder, right? So this is science. This is just pure science. Quantum physics is where you can have like atoms can be at two places at the same time. So you can choose your lesser self or you can choose your higher self. And so that's the thing. You have those choices every day. So right now, I'm in day 2 of fasting. I can go in my kitchen right now and make a sandwich, right? Or I could eat whatever. Like it's there. I have chosen. So it comes down to choosing and making a decision. And
Hmm.
so I've chosen, I made a decision. Hey, I'm doing a 3-day fast. And so that's another part of it is that discipline, but also you just build. And then you realize like I want these results. So if I have want these results, I have to go through these steps to get it.
Yeah. And I find that when you are disciplined or you do what you say you're going to do, it builds trust with yourself and you learn to believe in yourself. Like, okay, yeah, I can do it. I've done this before. And it really helps build that trust, is what I found. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's that confidence piece too.
Yeah.
It's that confidence piece on your mindset. It
Yeah.
is being able. So let me ask you a question, Tracy. Has there ever been anything that you went through that you didn't actually go through? Like you didn't like, when we were kids, we had to get up in front of everybody to do public speaking or to
Mhm.
do something. And we were like, oh my gosh, like my life ends. There's no way I can do it. But we did. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing is like when you look at things in that perspective, did you realize that these are challenges, but I went through those before and maybe I didn't understand how I'm going to do it, but I persevered and I went through it.
Yes, absolutely. Now, looking back, is there anything that you would do differently during that 18-year period as far as like mindset and how you handled everything?
Be- Beautiful question. So I do get asked this a lot. Like it's like the red pill, blue pill. Like, could you change it or would you not? I would not change anything. I feel like everything that I went through made me the man that I am right now.
Yeah,
Made me the person that Tracey wants to interview me on a podcast.
yeah,
Like I feel every bit of pain that I had gave me another access to the version of myself that I would not have been able to get to if I would have gotten if I would have done things differently. And so I just I like to just say that the impact that I'm creating is so much more important than how I had to go through something.
mm-hmm.
It I just I feel that in my heart of hearts. I wouldn't change anything. There's not even the marriage part. Like even finding the perfect person to have kids. Like I love kids. But that part, all it's gonna do is bring me to the correct person.
Mm-hmm.
Like so would I go back and be married to someone who wasn't the right person and then later on find out you're not the right person and cause a bunch of heartache? Doesn't make any sense to me. So yeah, I would rather I think not changing anything would be the best case scenario.
Yeah. Well, so what do you think was your biggest lesson or takeaway from that experience?
Yeah, the biggest takeaway, and it's so simple, but we don't. A lot of people do not do it. And that's just if you love somebody, tell them. You have a dream, wake that up, go after your dream, go do the things that you're uncomfortable doing, and
Mm-hmm.
just live your life. Tracey, ever since I got misdiagnosed, I've lived every day better than the day before. And I've pushed myself to do that. So like I am waking up and I'm putting my foot on the gas all the way to the floor to get every ounce that I can out of each day.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's through connections, whether it's through work, whether it's through hanging out with my niece and laughing and just having those fun conversations. I have just decided I want every ounce of blood, sweat, and tears that I have to go to my purpose and me enjoying a better life. And so I think that if anything I teach, I hope that people just realize that nothing is promised.
I know that's so true. Now, what would you say? Actually, really quick, I want to mention you have a book that was recently released, right?
Yeah, so I have a book. It's a mindset book. This was not the book I intended to put out, but I felt like this would be the book that everyone needs. So it's called The Bounce Back Blueprint: Become Bulletproof. Um, and I had so much pushback on the picture. People didn't want me to put out the picture because it shows a hole in a basketball,
Mm-hmm.
and people were just like, you didn't get shot. Well, no, I didn't get shot. Like I didn't. The bullet did not hit my physical body, but trust me, it took a big piece of my heart and my soul and my innocence away. And so that's why I depicted it. And also, that basketball wasn't bulletproof, right? So I had to go through that to create Show Up to Win, so I could teach others how to become bulletproof.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Um, I want to go back really quick to when you found out that you did not have cancer. What was that like?
It's a great question. So the doctor came in and said, "This is going to be really hard for me and it's going to be really hard for you." And I thought, how is this going to be hard for this guy? And then when he told me, I actually asked him, I had been going into every night, I would hit my head on the pillow and I'd just be like, man, if I just was healthy, if I could just get my health back, like what could I do? Like if you could grant me my health, and when the miracle came walking in the door, told me I didn't have it. He told me I would. He's like, I feel like you have COPD or sleep apnea, one of the two. And I was like, are you sure? I've been battling this for 18 years. Like, I just felt like it was hopeless. And so I'll go ahead and tell you, my legs were shaky. I was numb. Um, I think I shed a few tears, but I really didn't. I didn't grasp it. I was just in shock.
Mm.
And it wasn't until later on when someone asked me, they said, you should go get a second opinion. And I was like, no, I'm not going to get a second opinion. I'm going to take this and then I'm going to go get the sleep test. And then once I did that, it was like, then it made more sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like, hey, I'm getting the optimal result. Why would I go go to another doctor who had already diagnosed me with it? Made no sense to me.
Right. Wow, that is incredible. Now, is all of this, like, say, of course, is it about this, your story?
So parts of what I did was, Tracey, I created this book and I told the things that I used to get me through those type of things. So I talk about during the shooting, I controlled my breath. So I talk about breath work. So those are the things. I didn't even know all the reasons that all these things worked. I was just applying. That's another thing that I'll tell you. I feel when we're learning something, I think a lot of people get grasped into the how. I don't get in a how. I'm in a allow. I just apply stuff. I don't know why it works. It doesn't. I don't need to know the science behind why it works to know it works. Especially you with intuitive abilities, you understand more than anything. There's times. So because you're intuitive, you'll understand this because I'm very intuitive also. When the day of the shooting, I didn't drive the vehicle that I owned at that time. The vehicle I owned, had a tire pressure issue, and then sometimes I would get just stranded. And so I didn't want to get stranded with my niece. And so what I did was I drove my dad's truck, but I walked out of the door with the keys to my SUV. And I realized, like, I've got my little niece, like, I don't need to get her, like, stranded. So I changed keys and drove a different vehicle. Here's the thing. If that C pillar, and the C pillar is what is where the roof and the bed meet, is that piece of metal. That's what that bullet hit. That piece of metal isn't there in an SUV. So I wouldn't be here or my niece if I drove a different vehicle.
Wow, that is amazing. Um, your story is so powerful. Do you have any wisdom or advice that you can share for anyone who is maybe currently going through, either cancer or just having a hard time right now?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'm going to read part of the back of my book because this actually applies to them. We, as people who have been diagnosed, people, as you, we were the silence people. And I feel like that's also one of the reasons that, like, the silence people are my people. I understand the pain. I understand the turmoil. I understand the people not understanding. I understand not being felt like you were loved, like you were seen, you were ever heard. And I just want people to know that, like, deep down, I know that. And I know that's one of the most difficult things out of all of it is more and more people didn't choose it. Like, it wasn't a decision. Hey, I'm going to have this. And so I just want to tell people from the bottom of my heart, it gets better as your mind gets better. The mindset is so, so important. You're able to choose how you respond. Now, that doesn't mean that you can take a magic pill and the solution, you get the solution. I wish it did. I wish I could give that to everybody from the deepest part of my soul. But what I can tell you is you'll be able to say when you check out, I did everything in my power to do it the not only the right way, but I also did it the way that I wanted to show up. It goes back to that show up to win mentality. Is I showed up with intention and I showed up with the presence. I knew like I was fighting for everything, and that's what I want to tell them is like I know I understand your pain and your struggle, but what I really want you to know is that there's other people out there that truly, truly understand, and you're not alone. I think that's the other part is the alone part. We feel like we're singled out and we're not. We just are not aware of the other people that are going through the same stuff.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking. That was very nice. I have really enjoyed having you on the show. If anyone wants to buy your book or contact you in some way, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so the book is on Amazon. So uh, that I appreciate everyone that's getting the book is I feel like that's a great step to me. But then also I'm getting ready to launch a community. I feel like that's the other important part is just have that support from for me, but also have that community to support each other. I think that's really important, and I'm able to also pull from that community and realize, hey, I have to be better. The best way to get a hold of me is I love Facebook, so I'm on Facebook, but also my website's DwayneMorton.com, and then also show to
Okay. I'll put all that information in the show notes and
yeah.
links to that. So great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your story. I want to say I'm sorry that you went through all that, and I am, but it feels like more of a blessing, right? One of those blessings in disguise that made you who you are today. Would you agree?
I will agree.
Mm-hmm.
I think that also is the reason why I wouldn't change a thing is
Yeah,
that I had to go through all this to be able to fulfill my purpose.
yeah.
But like I'm that dude. I'm that guy. Like I'm the person that people can look up and be like, "Hey, if he went through this, I could go through whatever." And so I also feel like some of the people who really, really resonate with me is that they realize I didn't have a choice or a decision in anything. And so I think that's also a reason why a lot of people resonate with me. And so I just appreciate it and I appreciate your time and I appreciate you inviting me on your platform so much.
Yeah, no, thank you. I loved hearing your story, and it's so great to get to know you better. Well, thank you. We'll go ahead and wrap that up. Until next time, many blessings.